Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're taking a look at what is basically Evo Blood. So Evo Blood is still very similar to the Machina Blood archetype setup, except focusing of course more on the evolution side of things, using things like destructive succubus, we'll get that right the third time round, Zeus the Supreme, and of course things like Techno Lord, even a Calamity Bringer just for that extra removal threat, plus decent damage dealer. But mostly, most of this top end with Zeus and Destructive are the key cards, with of course Mono being another really key card to get a lot of damage in really quickly. You'll see this deck can do that quite well as we get into it right now. So the first game that I've got for you guys here today is actually going to be up against Shadow. Pretty crazy Shadow, actually, can do fairly well. I've gone up against a few Reanimate Shadows, and I've actually worked on another Reanimate Shadow deck that seems to be roughly what most people are running, and it seems to be what most tier lists are covering as basically the same thing, as it's quite popular and does okay. It's definitely not a top tier deck, but it's interesting. But we'll have that probably in a few videos from now. Right now though, focusing on, of course, Blood. Really all we can do is go for the early game stuff, which you've probably seen quite commonly for Blood, when you're playing the Machina archetype, as the Machina archetype does fairly well with that. So going for those really early pushes, getting a lot of board place going, losing a lot of followers early on to set up for mono, and really just swinging at face as much as you can to set up that damage. You also are, at the same time, trying to take advantage of course, as many evo effects as you can, as they are quite important. So I personally like to take advantage of whatever I can, wherever I can a lot of the time with this deck. So when I can take advantage of stuff like Warring there, we can actually do fairly well with it. And dealing some damage usually isn't an issue, so just throwing an Evo away since we've got an extra one still. Just so we can weaken them down a little bit. I'd rather deal with a 1-1 than the 3-3 right now. And I'm a little glad I did that, because now the Cerberus Hound, not quite as good. It lost a little bit of extra potential there, which will definitely work in our favor. So Warring Flame plus Snake Tamer, pretty good combination actually when using my second Evo there. So this only takes us up to, I believe, 3 Evos. So we're not super crazy high on Evos right now, but we're at a reasonable enough level that it shouldn't be a big issue in the long run. Since this deck runs mono, all I really needed to do was try and stick some Machina followers to the board that I could actually take advantage of, so I could evolve and get maximum value out of them. So here we can actually gain 3 Evos straight off the mono, which is perfect. And with what's currently on board, we can actually focus purely on face, going for the maximum amount of damage possible this turn, being 12. Since Destructive will just wipe most boards next turn. Provided, of course, that that's the route we want to go. We also have the potential just to win the game if they don't wipe our board, which, of course, they are going to wipe. You're not going to leave stuff up when you're that close to being dead. Although we did get a really good draw there, the Urias, perfect. They did put us exactly at 10, which for Vengeance was really good since it means we do get the Serpents. If it wasn't for that, I probably still would have went with the play. We just wouldn't have got the wards, which I think still would have been fine. There's not a lot of big storm that, of course, Shadow can deal out that easily now, so it's not usually a worry, and a pretty easy way to secure the win there. And coming into our next game here, we are going to go up against Haven.
Time to get started. Moonlight drives me mad.
Haven can be problematic sometimes, especially Elena Haven, which is still one of the top ranked decks currently. Seems to be still, you know, quite powerful. Not a big surprise though, considering it's Haven right now, and with Elena being the way it is, it's probably not going to drop off that sharply ever at this point. Not until at least Elena or the other cards take a bigger hit, or even more crazy cards come out, so that'll be an interesting one. Looks like they're going for a pretty standard beginning at least, nothing too crazy. I didn't have anything except for Snake to play on to, which put me at a fairly big disadvantage to begin with. But I felt getting something out now was better than waiting, so why not? We will probably lose the snake since they're not going to let it go into turn 4. It probably was a mistake to make it that kind of play, especially after they got really good trades out of it, but I still felt reasonably happy with what I did there. Since Warring Flame was going to be part of my main aim anyway, since it is a free Evo card and actually deals fairly well with a lot of Haven early game, before they of course go for bigger laner swings, so we really won't lose to too much on this next turn, even with the laner coming down now. Plus our bat is still up, which means we've got at least a couple of followers to come out of that on turn 5. Which will give us our Metal Blade Demon draw if we want it. So we got at least a double draw. I can at least be kinda okay with that. Plus we can wipe the board with an Evo. So that brings us up, I think, to 3 Evos now. If we look at the destructive, of course, it does give away it pretty easily. And with a mono in hand, we're looking at a pretty comfortable line of play going forward. Maybe not next turn, but definitely the turn after. Next turn will be the more interesting one now. So I went for the Mecha Wing, the hoverboard. We're just flooding. That's really what we want to do now. No matter what, we want to make sure we got as much on the board as we can, so that when mono can come down next turn, we are getting maximum Evos. And at the same time, we managed to deal with their entire board, so that was a very good spot to be in. There isn't a lot that could easily wipe this. At best, they remove maybe 1 or 2 here. Just really is going to depend on their current draw. And it looks like just the 1, so that's pretty promising. We do lose a lot because we can't deal with these in an effective manner. And I probably should have actually just full on taken the mono play and evolved all of those and got full value out of them. Definitely should have made that play instead of going for what I just did. I was trying to come up with something else, but just couldn't think of it. I probably could have actually got the extra 3 damage now that I look back on it. Although, actually, no, I think... Did we need... Yeah, no, we might have needed that slot. Yeah, so we actually... I think we did need that slot, from memory. Or maybe we didn't. I don't know. Probably just a massive error on my part. Not that it seemed to make a huge difference here, since we've got a pretty crazy hand coming forward. We can easily wipe this. And set up a couple of more Evos if we want them for the mono next turn. And I wanted to hold on to the destructive succubus because I suspect there was going to be some more pain in the ass things to use it on. And I'm glad I did, because removing this is... especially for how cheaply we can actually remove it. And at the same time, we get 2 6/6s and a 4/3 there, which potentially the 4/3 can become a 6 as well with the mono Evo, so... if we get to that stage in this game, we have pretty much won. There isn't a lot that our opponent can really do to us that would be threatening. A full board wipe is unlikely, and anything more threatening is pretty much gone. All they can do is try and heal out of range and survive, which honestly is definitely their best idea, but obviously they just ran out of healing options. Couldn't get quite over that. So I actually found this deck really good. I didn't get much use out of Zeus or, of course, Calamity, but Calamity is a single card tech. It's mainly just in case you come up against an opponent where you really need it, especially in something like maybe a mirror. That could come in quite handy. The Zeus, of course, is quite good. You saw how many Evos we were able to pull off there. If you get dragged into a later game, Zeus is definitely a massive finisher if you need to pull it off. So that's definitely a card you don't want to sacrifice on, even though I didn't use it in this actual playthrough of the deck. But everything else pretty much shown up, I think, other than Azazel, as I just didn't end up getting him, and honestly didn't end up needing him, luckily. But he's, again, another card that, in the right kind of matchups, in the situations where you could get stuck, he is very good. Being able to basically effectively lock yourself down to 4 hits is good, and getting Vengeance active for things like Destructive Succubus, which, as you saw, can become extremely cheap, is always a good option. So if you guys did enjoy this video and you want to check out this deck, I will leave a link in the description below. Be sure to like button and subscribe for more content. Until next time, guys, see ya.